Imagine lying in bed. The lights are off. Your phone is finally down. The room is completely quiet. And then, your brain starts creating an entire movie. You imagine a conversation that never happened. Maybe you imagine meeting someone and saying exactly the perfect thing. Maybe you imagine becoming successful, proving someone wrong, or suddenly living the life you've always wanted. Sometimes the scenario is completely random, and somehow, you can spend 30 minutes inside a story that doesn't even exist. But here's what's fascinating. Your brain isn't necessarily doing this because you're strange or unable to sleep. There are psychological reasons why your mind becomes so active when the world finally becomes quiet. And the first reason has to do with something your brain rarely gets during the day: space. During the day, your attention is constantly being pulled in different directions. Messages, work, people, videos, notifications, responsibilities. Your brain is reacting to one thing after another. But when you finally lie down, those distractions disappear, and suddenly your mind has room to wander. That's when your imagination can take over. You might replay an old conversation and imagine how it could have gone differently. You might create a future conversation with someone you've never even spoken to. Your brain starts asking, what if I said this? What if they said that? What would happen next? And before you realize it, you've created an entire alternate reality. But there's another interesting reason this happens. Your brain likes simulation. We constantly imagine possible situations before they happen. It's one way the mind prepares for the future. Before an important conversation, you might mentally rehearse what you're going to say. Before a presentation, you imagine yourself standing in front of everyone. Before meeting someone new, you might imagine how the interaction could go. The strange part is that your brain doesn't always stop when the real situation isn't coming. So your imagination can continue running simulations simply because it feels interesting. And sometimes those simulations are incredibly positive. You imagine being confident, successful, loved, respected. You imagine finally saying what you've always wanted to say. These fantasies can give your brain a temporary emotional reward. For a few minutes, you get to experience a version of life that feels exciting or satisfying. But there's a darker side. Sometimes the scenarios aren't positive at all. You imagine an argument, someone rejecting you, something going wrong, a conversation where you say the wrong thing. Your brain creates the worst possible outcome and then plays it repeatedly. Why? Because your mind is often trying to prepare you for uncertainty. If it can imagine what might go wrong, it feels like it's getting ready. But there's a problem. Preparing for something that isn't actually happening can turn into overthinking. And that's why some people don't just imagine one scenario before sleep. They create entire stories, different characters, different endings, different versions of themselves. Sometimes they even return to the same imaginary world night after night. And here's something you might recognize. The imaginary version of you is often more confident than the real one. You say things you normally wouldn't say. You take risks you normally avoid. You become the person you wish you could be. That doesn't necessarily mean you're unhappy with yourself. It can simply reveal something interesting about what your mind wants to explore. Your imagination gives you a safe place to experiment with different versions of yourself. But there's one important distinction. Imagining scenarios before sleep is not automatically a problem. For many people, it's simply a normal form of mind wandering. The important question is whether you control the imagination, or whether the imagination starts controlling you. If you're choosing to create stories and eventually falling asleep, there's usually nothing unusual about it. But if your thoughts keep you awake for hours, cause significant distress, or make it difficult to function during the day, that's something worth paying attention to. Because sometimes the quietest moment of the day reveals what's been occupying your mind all along. So tonight, when you close your eyes and your brain suddenly starts creating another imaginary conversation, don't immediately ask yourself, "Why am I like this?" Instead, ask something more interesting. What is my mind trying to explore? Maybe it's a future you're excited about. Maybe it's a conversation you wish had happened. Maybe it's a version of yourself you're still becoming. Or maybe your brain simply enjoys telling itself stories when the world finally becomes quiet. And that's the fascinating thing about the human mind. Sometimes, the stories we create when nobody is watching can reveal more about us than the conversations we have during the day. So I'm curious, what kind of fake scenarios does your mind create before you fall asleep? Future conversations, success stories, arguments, romantic scenarios, or completely random situations? Share your answer in the comments. And if you're fascinated by psychology, human behavior, and the hidden patterns that shape our lives, subscribe to The Tell. Because every week we'll uncover another secret hiding inside the human mind.